He learned long ago that arguing is a game built for people who need to win, not for those who understand. A Sigma male doesn't raise his voice, defend his choices, or justify his decisions, because he knows something most people never realize. The moment you explain yourself, you hand your power to the person listening. Silence protects it. Stillness sharpens it. And walking away preserves it forever. He doesn't argue because arguments require emotional investment, and he invests nothing where the return is chaos. He doesn't explain because explanations are invitations for people to judge, debate, or twist what he says. A Sigma's clarity lives inside him. It doesn't need confirmation from anyone else. When something no longer aligns with his peace, he simply withdraws. When someone misunderstands him, he lets them. When someone tries to provoke him, he stays calm while they reveal their true nature. People often mistake this for apathy or coldness, but it is discipline. A Sigma knows that the loudest person in the room rarely has control. The most certain one does, and certainty does not shout. It moves quietly, confidently, and without apology. If you've ever felt this shift in yourself, the moment you stop reacting, stop proving, stop explaining, you already understand the power he carries. The world cannot manipulate a man who refuses to play the emotional game. If this resonates with you, subscribe to Silent Wise for more insights into the psychology of the unseen, the unbothered, and the self-directed. And in the comments, answer this. Do you stay silent because you don't care what they think, or because you already decided to walk away? Comment the word unshakable if you're still here. He knows arguing drains energy. He refuses to waste on people who already made up their minds. When a Sigma male senses that someone isn't seeking truth but simply defending their ego, something inside him shifts. A quiet, calculated recognition that anything he says next will not change the outcome. He sees the locked posture, the rehearsed certainty, the way the other person listens only to reply, never to understand. And in that moment, he withdraws from the battlefield entirely. Not because he lacks conviction, not because he cannot dismantle the argument piece by piece, but because he refuses to participate in a conversation where the conclusion has already been written before the first word was spoken. Arguing becomes nothing more than an energy leak, a drain that offers no return, no clarity, no evolution. So he simply opts out. What most people misunderstand is that the Sigma does not avoid conflict, he avoids pointlessness. His mind works like a strategist studying angles, outcomes, and psychological patterns. If he sees the discussion is driven by ego protection, identity defense, or emotional instability, he knows that logic will not land, truth will not be welcomed, and perspective will not be received. People who argue just to defend themselves do not want solutions. They want validation for their unconscious fears. And a Sigma refuses to feed that. Instead, he keeps his insight to himself, conserving his energy for environments where reason, growth, and depth are possible. His silence is not surrender. It is a statement, a declaration that his time, his peace, and his focus hold more value than the fleeting satisfaction of proving someone wrong. He walks away because he understands the psychology of closed minds. They do not learn through conversation. They learn through consequences, experiences, and the quiet collapse of their assumptions. And while others exhaust themselves trying to be heard, the Sigma simply observes, saves his breath, and moves forward, knowing that the loudest person in the room is rarely the one who understands the most. He understands explanations invite judgment, not understanding, so he keeps his clarity internal. A Sigma male learned early that the moment you begin explaining yourself, you hand people a map to your inner world, and most don't use it with care. Explanations rarely bring understanding. They bring opinions, projections, and unconscious biases disguised as feedback. People don't listen neutrally. They filter your truth through their fears, expectations, insecurities, and assumptions. And the Sigma sees this with unsettling clarity. So instead of inviting others into his reasoning, he holds his clarity like a quiet flame, protected, self-contained, not exposed to winds that would distort or extinguish it. His decisions are carved in silence, because silence is the only space where they remain pure. When he does try to explain, he watches how quickly people shift from curiosity to judgment. They dissect, misinterpret, debate, or attempt to redirect him toward paths that align with their comfort, not his purpose. They project motives onto him he never possessed, question choices they never fully understood, and offer guidance he never asked for. Over time, he realizes something profound. The more he explains, the more distorted his truth becomes. So he chooses the path of internal certainty, a quiet knowing unaffected by anyone's reaction. His clarity becomes a private compass. He does not need approval, permission, or applause to validate his choices. While others talk through their decisions loudly, seeking reassurance in every direction, the Sigma listens inward. He trusts the logic, intuition, and pattern recognition that shaped his conclusion long before others even noticed he was reflecting. And because he keeps his reasoning internal, no one can twist it, challenge it, or weaken it. His silence becomes his shield. People often misread this as secrecy or distance. In reality, it is protection, not of his ego, but of his direction. A Sigma knows most people don't understand him because they don't understand themselves. So he safeguards his clarity from the noise. He moves according to what he knows, not according to what others think. And in that discipline, he becomes untouchable. He stays silent because silence reveals others' intentions faster than debate ever will. A Sigma male learned long ago that when you stop filling the space with your voice, other people start filling it with their truth. Silence is his X-ray machine. It shows him what arguments cannot, what explanations never uncover, and what words often hide. When he goes quiet, he is not withdrawing, he is observing. He watches how people shift when they are no longer given emotional cues to mirror. He notices who grows nervous, who becomes defensive, who over-explains, who grows impatient, and who suddenly shows a version of themselves they kept buried beneath politeness. Silence creates discomfort for anyone with something to hide, and the Sigma reads that discomfort like a map. In debates, people perform. They posture, defend, exaggerate, charm, manipulate, or intellectualize. But in silence, they reveal. When he refuses to argue, others expose their motives without realizing it. The one who grows louder is the one who fears being exposed. The one who changes the subject is the one avoiding accountability. The one who becomes angry is the one who depended on his emotional reactions for control. And the one who grows quiet alongside him, that is the rare person who understands him more than they speak. His silence is not passive, it is strategic. It removes the emotional fuel that manipulative people need to operate. Their tactics collapse when he refuses to react. And in that empty space, their intentions, good or bad, rise to the surface. A Sigma male listens to tone, timing, micro-expressions, contradictions, and the subtle shifts in energy that appear only when someone is no longer performing for an audience. This is how he identifies loyalty, deception, insecurity, entitlement, or genuine care without a single argument. Silence is his test, his filter, and his armor. While others demand explanations, validation, or emotional engagement, he observes from a distance, choosing wisely who deserves access. He doesn't need to confront anyone. He doesn't need to correct anyone. He simply stays quiet and lets truth reveal itself in its rawest form. He realizes people project their insecurities onto arguments, and he won't carry emotional baggage that isn't his. A Sigma male has watched enough conflicts unfold to understand a difficult truth. Most arguments have nothing to do with facts, logic, or reality. They are emotional mirrors. People don't fight because they're seeking clarity. They fight because they're seeking relief from the insecurities they can't face within themselves. And the fastest way insecure individuals avoid accountability is by projecting their unresolved fears, frustrations, and wounds onto the person standing in front of them. A Sigma refuses to become that emotional dumping ground. He has seen how easily a discussion turns into a battlefield where the other person weaponizes blame to avoid their own reflection. One moment he's answering a question, the next he's defending himself against accusations that have nothing to do with him. That is the trap of projection. You become responsible for emotions you didn't create. Sigma males recognize this early, and the moment they sense the energy shifting from conversation to projection, they step out mentally. Not because they're weak, but because they're wise enough to recognize a fight that cannot be won, not through reason, not through clarity, not through patience. Insecure people argue to protect their ego, not to reach understanding. They twist intentions, exaggerate offenses, rewrite memories, or turn themselves into the victim to avoid facing their own patterns. A Sigma male sees this clearly. He notices the defensive tone, the misplaced anger, the sudden blame, the emotional intensity that doesn't match the situation. Instead of engaging, he detaches. He understands that if he continues, he won't be talking to the real person anymore. He'll be talking to their wounds. So he refuses to carry weights that were never meant for him. He refuses to take responsibility for pain that existed long before he arrived. Instead of absorbing projections, he steps back into silence, allowing the other person's insecurities to stay with their rightful owner. His calmness becomes both a boundary and a revelation. It exposes who is seeking healing and who is seeking a target. This is why he walks away, not out of coldness, but out of emotional intelligence. He knows that anyone who projects onto him would eventually punish him for the things they refuse to confront within themselves. He walks away because peace is more valuable to him than being right. A Sigma male understands the cost of conflict better than most. He knows that every argument comes with a price. Emotional energy, mental bandwidth, time, and sometimes even self-respect. And he refuses to pay that price for someone else's pride. He has no interest in proving himself to people who listen only to respond, or in winning battles that leave him feeling drained. For him, inner peace is not a luxury. It is a non-negotiable requirement for survival, clarity, and evolution. He learned early that being right rarely changes anything. People cling to their narratives because identity feels safer than truth. They will defend their insecurities as if they're facts, protect their delusions as if they're logic, and fight to maintain illusions that keep them comfortable. A Sigma watches this dynamic unfold and simply decides not to participate. He would rather walk away with his sanity intact than win an argument that drags him into emotional mud. When he senses the conversation becoming a competition instead of a connection, something shifts in him. His voice softens. His responses shorten. His presence becomes still, almost distant. Not because he's defeated, but because he's disengaging. His silence is not surrender. It is strategy. He knows that peace is found in the exit, not the outcome. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Only those ruled by ego stay to fight battles that don't matter. And while others interpret his withdrawal as indifference, the truth is far deeper. He protects his inner world with the same intensity others protect their reputation. He will not allow arguments to fracture his focus or steal his calm. He will not let someone else's chaos rewrite the rhythm of his mind. So he leaves. Quietly. Clearly. Completely. Because in his world, peace is not something you negotiate, it's something you preserve through the courage to walk away. He communicates through actions, not words. Results destroy doubt faster than explanations. For a Sigma male, words are the weakest form of proof. He has watched too many people talk themselves into importance, make promises they never intended to keep, or craft explanations designed only to protect their ego. He learned long ago that most conversations are theater, noise meant to create an illusion of clarity, not the substance of it. So he moved away from language as persuasion and toward something far more powerful, action. When someone questions his intentions, he doesn't argue. When people doubt his direction, he doesn't justify. When they misunderstand him, he doesn't clarify. He simply does what he set out to do. And the moment the results appear, clean, undeniable, grounded in reality, the doubt evaporates on its own. His silence becomes vindication. His progress becomes explanation. His outcomes become evidence. He doesn't need to convince anyone of who he is when his life demonstrates it unmistakably. There is something cinematic in the way he moves when he switches from verbal to action-based communication. His presence shifts into stillness, his decisions tighten into precision, and he moves with the calm certainty of someone who knows exactly where he's going. While others drown themselves in arguments, he quietly builds what they said was impossible. While they demand justification, he outgrows the need for their approval. While they stay busy trying to win the conversation, he wins the reality that follows it. And because he speaks through achievement, not emotion, people eventually stop doubting him altogether. They begin to recognize the pattern. When he falls silent, something significant is about to happen. His lack of explanation becomes a warning shot. His disappearance from the debate becomes the beginning of a transformation. By the time they realize what he's doing, he has already surpassed the very expectations they once tried to impose on him. For him, actions are truth, results are language, and silence is the bridge between the two, a communication style that leaves no room for argument, only realization. He is unbothered by misunderstandings. What others think has no influence on his direction or identity. A Sigma male reaches a point in his evolution where external perception becomes irrelevant. Not by force, not by ego, but by clarity. He understands that most people never truly see him. They see projections, assumptions, fears, and reflections of their own insecurities. They interpret him based on how they feel, not who he is. And because of that, their misunderstandings lose all weight. He no longer feels any need to correct them, persuade them, or bend himself into shapes that make others more comfortable. Their version of him is theirs to carry. His identity is something he built alone, in silence, without an audience to applaud or approve. When someone misreads his calm as arrogance, he lets them. When they twist his silence into coldness, he doesn't defend it. When they assume he's detached, uncaring, or aloof, he doesn't flinch, because he knows the truth. Clarity does not require consensus. Purpose does not need applause. Growth does not wait for permission. His life is a straight line drawn by intuition, discipline, and self-understanding, not a circle chasing after people who were never meant to understand him in the first place. There is a cinematic stillness in the way he moves through judgment. He does not speed up to impress, nor slow down to explain. He remains centered, letting opinions swirl around him like wind around a mountain, loud, chaotic, but ultimately powerless. He is unmoved because he has outgrown the need to be seen accurately by those who do not even know themselves. His direction is born from something deeper, an internal compass, a private code, a quiet certainty that lives beyond the reach of misunderstanding. As a result, he becomes difficult to manipulate, influence, or emotionally disrupt. Misinterpretation doesn't bother him because it cannot touch him. People may debate who they think he is, but he is already miles ahead, walking a path only he can see. That is the paradox of the Sigma. The less others understand him, the more powerful he becomes, because misunderstanding cannot slow a man who no longer needs to be understood. There comes a moment when the Sigma male stops explaining, stops adjusting, and stops carrying the weight of other people's interpretations, and that's the moment his power becomes unmistakable. When he no longer needs to be understood, he becomes untouchable. His silence turns into sovereignty, his detachment becomes clarity, and his path becomes something only he can shape. Those who misread him fall away. Those who underestimated him rethink everything, and those who truly see him move closer with intention. If this resonated with you, stay with us. Silent Wise is the place where the unseen, the unspoken, and the misunderstood finally make sense. Tell me in the comments, do you feel misunderstood? Or have you already reached the point where misunderstanding no longer matters? And if you're ready for more depth, more truth, and more psychological clarity, subscribe to Silent Wise. Your evolution is just getting started.